We can begin. Good morning again. Welcome, Chair, board members, Madam CEO, staff, and members of the public. I will just remind everyone again to silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. If you're a presenter, please speak directly and loudly into the microphone. Also ensure that the light on the microphone is green when speaking, not only if you're a presenter, but also if you're speaking from the panel. Thank you so much. I will need to interrupt your presentation. This is very important. I will need to interrupt your presentation if you fail to do so. And that is speak directly and loudly into the microphone, as viewers online and not just us here physically need to be able to hear what is being said. Thank you for your cooperation, anticipated cooperation. Chair, there are no members of the public wishing to provide comments. As such, we may proceed with the regular calendar. The first order of business is a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting, which was held on Thursday, November 30. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Who was that, please? Thank you.
Second, Gavin.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Thank you so much. Chair, would you like to make any remarks, comments?
Nothing in particular other than to wish everybody happy holidays and a happy new year. This is the last board meeting of the year. They've been arduous, but I think we've managed to survive. And we look forward to hitting next year running.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Madam CEO. I understand you have some comments for us.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We have some really great news. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to see the mayor's press conference on Friday, but we have done an amazing job this year at NYCHA, and I just want to thank everyone for all the work and leadership that we have from our executive team, especially our operations team that works so tirelessly. 10,000 plus or minus of our 12,000 employees work at the developments, work to make sure that our properties stay safe and sound and filled with heat and water and free of mold and lead and asbestos, and I really, really appreciate that. A couple of very exciting updates if you missed the announcement on Friday. On December 7th, we concluded our first trust vote at Nostrand Houses. And as I hope that you've seen in the press, the individuals there, the residents, overwhelmingly chose the trust to move forward in this next phase. So it's very, very exciting. I know that there are a lot of residents, people in the audience here who are super excited for the trust. So that's very, very exciting. There were 1,591 eligible voters and 808 residents voted. The majority obviously chose the trust, but overwhelmingly, the majority of all of the voters decided that change is something that they want to see. Whether it's trust or a PACT program, but people are very excited about the future, and so am I. The next item that I just wanted to touch base on, as you've probably read, this month we met for the first time with our new monitor. Our current monitor is going to be winding up at the end of February. And we thank Bart Schwartz and Guidepost Solutions for all of the help that they gave us over the first portion of our monitorship. Our new monitor will be Jenner and Block. They are working with us, they're meeting with our teams, and we look forward to this next step. I wanted to just briefly mention some of the items that we have been able to achieve under the HUD agreement over the past couple of years. For lead, we've abated 5,944 apartments and counting. We've completed our ventilation program, replacing 8,400 roof fans and cleaning 70,000 vents in our apartment, which has really contributed greatly to a decrease in mold in our apartments, which is amazing. Our preventative maintenance program reduced elevator outages in our lowest performing developments by 50%, which is also an incredible achievement. And we met the obligations to perform daily inspections and trash collection at all of our properties. So I am super excited about the future. Thank you so much to our board members for the support that you give us and the guidance that you give us. And I'm very much looking forward to 2024. We'll hit the ground running and achieve great things that year as well. Thanks.
Secretary, may I take a moment just to say a few words as well?
Oh, absolutely.
And just-
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. As a matter of really personal privilege, and certainly on behalf of the mayor, I do want to say that this year really marks a turning point in the history of NYCHA, with CEO Bova Hyatt's history making leadership an appointment. I know the mayor, speaking for the mayor and this administration, we could not be prouder of her leadership and her selection to lead the real next phase of NYCHA's history. The incredible accomplishments that have been made by Lisa and her team this year are just an extraordinary foundation of what is to come. We are equally proud and pleased to have really played a key role in her partner, in Jamie Rubin, joining as chair, and the selection of other board members as well. And just the level of commitment from the whole team and everyone who works at NYCHA, it's really incredible. So we are grateful for your leadership, and this has been really a momentous year with you at the helm and the two of you at the helm, and more to come. So we're very excited about that, and thank you.
Okay, so I'm actually going to invite, yes, Vice Chair, because I see it's coming. I'm going to invite the other board members to say some brief comments, if you'd like to, Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to remind people that while we're enjoying all the festivities of these wonderful holidays, we'd like to take a moment to honor and praise those brave men and women that are overseas fighting, in conflicts or wars, and hope that they have a nice holiday and get home safe. So please just take a minute to reflect on that, and happy holidays to everyone here and all your teams. Thank you for all that you do.
Amen. Anyone else? Paula? No?
Okay. I just want to say that in the world I've been in, time, treasure, and talent is what counts. And I know how hard this team works, their time you give in, I know your talent, and I know the treasures you've given. So I too want to just thank the staff for all you do and how much you do and how much progress we're making. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you for our members. Miller and McCoy?
Yes, good morning, everyone. As a resident, I would like to thank our CEO, definitely our CEO, our chair, vice chair, deputy mayor, everyone, all of the NYCHA staff for all of your hard work. It is recognized and noticed, and I put the word out that NYCHA, it's good to hear something good instead of hearing something bad all the time. And I want to thank you, all of you, for all the positivity and hard work that you do. And happy holidays.
Yes, I associate myself with previous remarks, and just want to say it's an honor and privilege to serve on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, all board members and Madam CEO. Okay, we'll move right into one report which is a presentation on the 2024 to 2028 proposed financial plan. And this presentation is in connection with presented items 30 and 31 on today's calendar. Anika?
Good morning, board members, colleagues, members of the public. My name is Anika Lascott Martinez, and I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of NYCHA. It has been a pleasure being the CFO. I think this is my fourth year and my fourth pleasure. So I'm going to walk through our preliminary 2023 results, our proposed 5-year operating and capital plans. So tenant rent arrears totals $484 million across over 71,000 households as of November 30th. It is a $359 million increase from 2019. You all might remember that I was here about a month ago, and I'm pleased to report that while this balance is still fairly large, it is a substantial decrease from where we were previously. In October, I came here with $533 million of arrears. We are very thankful for the ERAP program and all the support that we've gotten from our city and state partners. We've received $100 million as of last week. That was our target for the year, so we're very excited about that. And we've been able to apply $63 million to tenant accounts already as of November. So as we continue to apply these balances to our tenant accounts, you will see that number continue to decrease. Yet and still, NYCHA is only collecting 61% of all the rent charged, the new charges as well as the arrears over a 12-month period. And HUD expects that all public housing authorities will collect 100% of the rent charge. Our federal operating subsidy does not adjust to make up any difference. Next slide. So while our tenant rent revenue has been decreasing over the last 3 years, we've continued to maintain our investments in the HUD SDNY pillar areas, using creative funding strategies and all available resources. So below you'll see our actual spending on the pillars, and our 2023 number is actuals as of November. So we've spent already $703 million in a mixture of both operating and capital funds. And also pleased to report that our capital spending is starting to tick up as we deal with our state heating and elevator portfolio, as well as starting to spend down our city funds for the HUD agreement. Next slide. Since the execution of the HUD agreement, we've also made significant investments in staffing to improve conditions at the properties. So the graph that you see below, the blue bars represent the number of units in our portfolio in both the traditional public housing as well as our mixed finance portfolio. And the red trend line that you see is our head count. So we've hired 879 positions, which is a 9% increase from the end of 2019 through November of 2023. While at the same time, our portfolio has decreased about 10% due to PAC conversions. So our goal here was to increase the ratio of public housing staff per unit so that we could more readily deal with the aging impacts on our infrastructure. So while we have less units, I think our COO would agree that the units that we do have are tougher to manage and maintain given their age and the state of the capital assets within those units. Unfortunately though, our projected revenues can't sustain these continued staffing increases at this level. Next slide. Overtime. NYCHA spent $198 million in overtime through November, and we're projecting additional $18 million by December. That'll bring our total to $216 million by the end of the year, and that's a substantial increase, about $41 million higher than where we were in 2022. We spent about $175 million in overtime last year. So what you're seeing, we're again just trying to be transparent. On the left, you see what the overtime is, so what did they use it for? And on the right, you see who is using the overtime. So as you'd imagine, most of our overtime spending is being done in the field by our caretakers. They're about 21% of the overtime. Maintenance workers make up 10%, and the biggest overtime spenders beyond that are skilled trade staffing. So wrapping all of this up in a bow, what does this mean for our 2023 year-end results? So when I was here last year, same time, we adopted a budget of a $35 million deficit. And I committed to the board to consistently monitor that deficit, do mid-year updates, and then, make sure that we could balance. So pleased to report that we are going to balance our budget. And the various columns that you see, the first column is our adopted budget, so what we actually adopted last year. The second is our year-end forecast, where we think we will end up at the end of this year. And the third column is the variance, so just giving you a sense of what is driving all of those changes. So just summarizing all of this, in terms of our sources or revenues, we received $100 million in ERAP. We've received a higher proration in our federal operating subsidy, which means more funding to operate our units, although certainly not sufficient. And as well, we've received additional Section 8 subsidies and fees to manage our Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is the largest in the country. In terms of our uses, as I mentioned, the high growth in overtime spending, which we are going to work on controlling. Next year, we've had some critical emergency needs at the properties, which have been increasing our contract and our supply spending pretty significantly. And also, just a small note, we've paid a higher rate on some of our utilities. So even though our consumption is decreasing, which is really positive, it costs us more. Next slide. So getting into our proposed 5-year plan. So in 2024, we received $550 million worth of requests across the entire authority, from our property managers all the way up to our executives. We run a very collaborative and transparent budget process whereby the property managers, the execs, and everyone in between is a part of the process. They get to submit requests to either maintain their programs at status quo in some cases, or even expand programmatic initiatives. It's deliberated. They get to meet with the CEO and her team, as well as myself. We go through, we pass back our first set of results. Our team members have an opportunity to appeal if they feel the funding is still not sufficient, and also flag any impacts of the funding that they've been given. And then we do final decisions which are communicated across the authority. So we were able to approve $211 million of the receipts of the requests that we received. And you'll see about a half and half split. $100 million or so was able to be accommodated in the operating budget, and about $100 million in the capital budget. As you'd imagine, most of the requests were for our pillar areas of the HUD agreement, and significant amount in our property operations space. So, as mentioned, the gap between our operating expenses and our revenues continue to widen, right? We have the cost of complying with the HUD agreement and maintaining our aging building infrastructure, while at the same time, our tenant rent revenue has not made its way back to pre-pandemic levels. So we really are feeling the pressure on our operating budget. As such, we've taken some pretty proactive financial measures this year, similar to some of the measures we've taken last year, although we've gone a bit further, to mitigate our operating deficit in 2024. So first, we made sure that there was stable property funding, so no cuts to our property management contracts, equipment, and supplies managed by our property management staff. We right-sized the public housing headcount. So essentially, we're decreasing property staff through attrition as we continue to convert more properties through the RAD PACT portfolio. We've reduced our central office expenses. Much like the city, we required all of our central offices to undergo a PEG, or a program to eliminate the gap, and reduce pretty substantially, and we were able then to fund some more essential services. And we do maintain that we might have to, as time goes on, continue to cut our central office costs appropriately. And of course, overtime control measures. We're constraining our non-emergency overtime budget, and our operations team will be implementing control measures which we will track monthly. Next slide. So our proposed 2024 sources and uses. We are anticipating another deficit of $35 million, which we are pretty confident that given some of the other work streams that we have, we can close next year as well. Some highlights, we're only projecting $959 million in tenant rent revenue. Those of you who've been on the board previously remember numbers that were above $1 billion. We do not think that we are going to get back up to that space this year without some pretty significant infusions, either more ERAP funding or some additional home ARP funding, which we're working on with our federal partners. In total though, we're projecting $4.96 billion in revenue from local and federal sources. Our three big buckets, tenant rent, operating subsidy, and Section 8 subsidies. And then about $5 billion in expenses. Our expense budget will provide, again, over 12,000 full-time employees, most of which are at the field and in our operations space, so about 10,000 or more are in property operations or at the properties themselves. And again, $35 million deficit, which we will closely monitor, and I will be back here in a couple of months letting you know our progress against our budget. Next slide. So we are required to produce a 5-year operating plan per the HUD regulations. As you all know, each year we redo that operating plan using the last year's adopted budget as a base, and then we make changes. So you do see some growing deficits in the out years, but still pretty modest. And we, will continue to monitor our spending and implement whatever cost-cutting measures are necessary as we continue into the out years. Next slide. So a quick word about our proposed 5-year capital plan. So our proposed 5-year capital plan addresses $8.2 billion of the $80 billion capital need. $3.1 billion of that funding is available in 2024 across our sources. The largest, of course, is our federal public housing capital grant, and that number includes both our new grant as well as rollover funds that we have not yet spent, but we are working through. And a word about the capital budget. Unlike our operating funds, most of our capital funding rolls over year. So on the federal side, for example, you have 4 years to spend down each annual grant. And then on the city side, it can pretty much roll indefinitely, although we do our best to commit our city capital funds and expend in a timely manner. And same thing for the state. The funds do roll until they are spent. So much of what you see is a continuation of existing programs and initiatives. And we are pleased to report that we've achieved $1 billion in capital expenditures or more in 2023. And authority ride, it's about $140 million of capital spending across all of our areas. Next slide. So the next slide just kind of gives you a sense of some strategic investments. So trying to take that really big number and distill it in ways that folks can understand. So a couple highlights: $427 million to support replacement of elevators, $698 million for our environmental hazards, lead, asbestos, mold, $115 million for IT, $389 million for brickwork, local law 11, $704 million to repair roofs, $1 billion to upgrade our heating systems, $1.1 billion for our comprehensive modernization program at St. Nick's and Tote Hill, and so forth. Happy to take any questions from our board members. Bless you. Vice Chair.
Yes, so I'm glad that ERAP worked out and that we're doing things about the rent arrears and all those issues. But I think that if we put something together with the empty units that we have and get them on the rent roll, that should help us move into a positive position, and this time next year, you'll be reporting much different numbers.
So I think that is a fantastic idea, and please report that that is something that we are already working on with our city partners. So we have a vacant unit readiness program, which is city funded through our city expense dollars, and we are working to get thousands of units back into the rent roll. So you are spot on, Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you so much for your time.
One quick question, sorry. The numbers, the slide back, the 5-year
Yes,
investments, does that include tax, trust, whatever else we this year, or that's just on our books?
it does not,
That's just public housing, yeah?
just public housing.
Thank you so much, Anika.
Thanks, Anika. Okay, we'll move right into item number 1, that's Dia.
Morning. Good morning, board members, CEO, COO, and secretary. My name is Dia Bonds, and I'm senior program manager.
I'm gonna interrupt Dia, can you hear, is everything okay? 'Cause
Ken here?
You're good.
Okay, good. I'm the senior program manager for the Housing Navigation Unit, which is within LHD, Lease Housing. And I am presenting calendar item number 1. We are requesting authorization to ratify the entering of the exigent agreement for housing navigation services with the funds for the city of New York. The contract commenced on August 4th of 2020, of this year, and will continue through August 3rd of 2024. And there are no options to renew. The contract is for $1,471,436.40. The fund for the City of New York is a non-minority and nonprofit organization. Their Section 3 hiring plan was approved under the new HUD rule. They indicated on their Section 3 hiring plan that the total estimated hours is 21,840, and the Section 3 total projected labor hours is 5,460. And the vendor name check dated August 3rd of this year was vetted by the Procurement, Ethics, and Vendor Responsibility Department, which found no issue to preclude this award. This vendor has been contracted to support the Housing Navigation Unit in its mission to help improve success rates for voucher holders by locating vacant apartments with private landlords, arranging viewings, and working with them through the entire rental process. Thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions you may have.
There are no questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Items 2 and 3, Jacqueline. I'm just gonna remind everyone, so I don't interrupt, to please speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Good morning, board members. My name is Jacqueline Sullivan. I'm the Vice President for Healthy Homes, which includes lead, mold, asbestos, and water. And I'm presenting on items 2 and 3 today. Both items are for lead-based paint visual assessment services in apartments and interior common areas. Item 2 is requesting authorization to award a citywide contract to Genesis Environmental Consultants with a not-to-exceed amount of $7,284,416.67. This contract has a total projected labor hours of 180,000 with 45,000 Section 3 labor hours. Item 3 is requesting authorization to award a citywide contract to Primetime Companies of New York with a not-to-exceed amount of $7,284,416.67. This contract has a total projected labor hours of 45,760 with 11,440 Section 3 labor hours. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are either of these vendors NWB?
Are they what?
NWB.
I believe, yeah, Genesis is minority owned,
Prime is woman.
and yes. Thank you.
No other questions, thank you, Jacqueline. Items 4, 5, and 32. Okay, Mr. Frito.
Good morning, Chairman Rubin, Vice Chair Gonzalez, and CEO Lisa Bola-Hyatt. My name is James Secreto. I'm the Vice President of the Office of Public Safety. I'm here before you today to submit 3 resolutions for your consideration and approval. 4 and 5 are they're similar. The difference is the amount that I'm asking, and the one is Queens and one is Staten Island. I'll start out with number 4. This is authorization to ratify the entering into an agreement with Simmering Corporation, also doing business as Wisdom Protective Services. Authorization is requested to ratify the entering into this agreement with Wisdom Protective Services for unarmed security and fire services, which commenced on July 27, 2023, and continuing through July 26 of 2026, utilizing the terms and conditions of the New York State Office of General Services Contract PS 68-266, award number 23106. There are no renewal options. This is Wisdom's first contract with the authority. The amount requested is the not to exceed amount, $1,863,000. This agreement provides for unarmed security guards and fire services various senior developments at Staten Island and central office locations. In addition, Wisdom will provide fire watch services as necessary at any authority senior development. Security guards will enhance the safety and security of the residents and employees at these locations by detecting and deterring criminal activity and reporting any incidents to the proper law enforcement agencies and the authority's Office of Safety and Security. In accordance with the proposed agreement, all security guards provided by Wisdom must be licensed as fire guards, requiring certificate of fitness to be issued by the New York City Fire Department as required by the authority at locations requiring such coverage as a result of fire protection systems maintenance. The approval to enter into this agreement prior to board approval was received by Supply Management and Procurement Department from the Chief Procurement Officer on June 28th, 2023. The agreement was awarded on July 27th, 2023. A vendor name check is not required. The Section 8 plan was approved by HUD. The projected labor hours of 17,520 and the projected Section 3 labor hours of 4,380. So therefore, Office of Safety and Security recommends that members approve such board resolution and permit the ratification of entering into this agreement to be executed in accordance with the authority's bylaws.
You just one correction, Section 8 should be Section 3,
Oh,
so just,
Oh, my bad,
it's
sorry.
okay.
No, it's okay. Okay, and item number 5 is similar. Same company, Wisdom, Cimarron, also doing business as Wisdom. Protective Services, minority-owned business. The amount requested is $4,218,000 not to exceed amount. And this is for guard services in Queens and central office locations. Similar, security guards, fire guards as well, also double as fire guards, they must be licensed as fire guards as well. Total projected labor hours, 23,360. Section 3, projected hours are 5,840. Any questions? I'm sorry.
Proceed.
Not yet, I got you. I got you.
No questions,
Okay.
proceed to 32.
All right, the third one is number 32. And this one, I am requesting authorization of a contract capacity increase to the original agreement with FJC Security Services, Inc. The authorization is requested to approve a contract capacity increase to this agreement with FJC for security guard and fire watch services authorized by Board Resolution 19-9/25-24 and as subsequently amended for an additional 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options to increase the not-to-exceed amount in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 3-year term, the first 1-year renewal option term, and a second 4-month renewal option term, which commenced on November 19, 2019, and is continuing through March 18, 2024. This not to exceed amount that I'm requesting is $35,005,416.30. This is the third contract capacity increase that I'm requesting. The original contract was $76 million for 3 years. The first contract capacity increase was $18,073,682. The second one was $25,980,922, and this will be the third contract capacity increase request.
Now I have a question. So, looking at the numbers and going back in the same year, asking for the security, are we running out of money somewhere in the midway that you're coming back so soon for more money?
The original contract was for 76 million, which comes out to about 2 million a month.
Okay.
We're actually spending 3.2 million. So we kinda are running out of money. Every 6 months or so, 9 months, I wind up having to come back asking for more money.
I see, okay. So, now my next question is more of a suggestion. Do you think that you can put out a more sexy proposal so that we can get, other companies to come on board to do the same job for less money?
There's like a standard that they go by, and believe me, we work there. We just hired Wisdom and another company that we'll be speaking about probably, next month, but they came in at pretty much the lowest bid. There were 4 companies that were interviewed, and Wisdom and the second company, ISS Action, they came in pretty much the lowest bid.
And if it's okay, I'd like to add just 2 other comments. The first is to clarify, because this is both security and fire guard services, so a large portion of the costs that we're seeing are things that are out of our control when we find a deficiency in the fire safety system, and we have to react accordingly by providing these protective services. And so it's a very hard cost for us to control, but we are looking at options there. And both Wisdom and ISS, our newest vendors, are MWBs, and so we work closely with procurement to write the sexiest RFPs that we can, but there are limits to what we are able to hire.
Okay, and I think the extra cost seems to come from the fire guard,
Yes, that's
more so than the
absolutely,
security.
the fire guard is the cost that's going.
And that's where we're having the issue.
Yes.
Okay,
And so we are looking at options to provide capital funding to make the permanent repairs needed in order to relieve ourselves of the fire safety services.
okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome,
both.
thank you.
I thank my boss for the assist.
Thank you very much. Items 6 through 8, Patty.
Good morning, board members. Good morning, board members. I'm Patty Bayroth, I'm the CIO here at NYCHA, thanks for your time. I'm starting with item number 6, which is a request to ratify an agreement with KPMG to provide project management and quality control services for the authority's resident case management system implementation. The agreement commenced on November 21st, 2023, and will continue through November 20th, 2026 for a total not to exceed amount of $3,162,494.82 over the 3-year term. KPMG will serve as the PMQA vendor, working hand in hand with NYCHA to oversee the implementation of the new resident case management system. Conducting PMQC services includes working alongside the system's integrator, in this case Nagaro, to ensure the system implementation process is proceeding in the most effective and efficient manner possible. Through this award, KPMG will be responsible for project management oversight activities, including monitoring, reporting, and submission of recommendations on project progress, health, issues, escalating concerns surrounding the progression of the RCMS implementation, if there are any, which we hope there are not. To ensure proper system implementation and configuration within NYCHA, the onboarding of KPMG to oversee all aspects of this project oversight is a vital component to the success and quality of this replacement project. The goal of RCMS, which is a client relationship management system built on the Salesforce platform, is to cover the full range of resident processes. The solution will address key functional areas such as stakeholder communications, tenancy administration, customer service, public and leased housing operations, resident information management, performance tracking, analytics and reporting, compliance, quality assurance, financial transactions, and legal management. RCMS will have functionality built in to engage authority residents and other city agencies via self-service portal, mobile app, NYCHA's customer contact center, kiosks at walk-in centers, email and paper mail. Salesforce is an industry-leading customer relationship management software that provides a wide array of functionality and scalability that will enable RCMS to evolve to meet the authority's current and future needs. 4 vendors submitted proposals and an evaluation committee selected KPMG as the optimal proposal. KPMG has committed under other economic opportunities to provide training to the authority's residents. Happy to take any questions.
When does the CMS go live?
Currently the timeline is in 2 phases. The first release is gonna cover public housing operations, and that is scheduled to be the first or second quarter of 2025. And we're finalizing the exact timeline, right now it's March of 2025. And the second phase is the lease housing, which is likely the last quarter of 2025 or the first quarter of 2026. Thank you. My second item is number 7 for your consideration, which is a request to ratify a contract capacity increase to the agreement with CDWG for the procurement of hardware, software, and IT services from major manufacturers. On January 31st, 2023, an amendment increased the not to exceed amount from $10 million to $20 million. From inception to December of 2022, IT processed a number of orders for software, hardware, and professional services totaling $860,000. In January of 2023, a $10.9 million purchase of IBM subscriptions as part of the Maximo upgrade project exceeded the not to exceed amount, resulting in this ratification request to increase the agreement. Besides the IBM Maximo subscriptions, IT has procured network services, PCs, monitors, memory, server racks, webcams, headphones, surge protectors, and Qmatic software. In the near future, IT anticipates acquiring the Salesforce licenses we'll need for RCMS and Sitecore subscriptions for website redesign, among other things. The authority has no obligation to spend using this agreement, and CDW is contractually a non-exclusive reseller. This enables the authority to purchase any CDWG offering using other procurement venues when they're more advantageous, such as the New York State OGS contract or GSA or any other openly competitive options. Happy to take questions.
No questions, proceed.
My third item for your consideration is item number 8, which is a request for a second contract capacity increase to the agreement with CDWG for the procurement of hardware, software, and services from major manufacturers as per the previous item. The original agreement for the not to exceed amount was for $10 million. As I stated, the CCI for $10 million increased it to a not to exceed amount of $20 million, and this board resolution seeks an increase of $25 million for a new total not to exceed amount of $45 million. Since the start date, the authority has processed $16.6 million in routine purchasing services through this agreement. This second increase for $25 million is due to a planned networking upgrade and as well as the acquisition of Salesforce subscriptions and other continuing purchases. As per the prior item, we have no spend obligation to meet the maximum amount, but it affords us the opportunity as a procurement vehicle for competitive pricing through this contract. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, there are none. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Items 9 through 11. Tony, but before we actually start the presentation, remember right, I understand that you may need to leave before the formal vote is taken. So after your review and deliberation on the 32 items, please indicate for the record how you wish to vote on the 32 board items. Do you approve all items or otherwise?
I approve all items.
Thank you so much. Your approval of the 32 items is so noted on the record. 9 through 11.
Thank you. Good morning, board members and colleagues. I'm Tony Maldonado, Vice President of Purchasing, Logistics, and Inventory, and I will be presenting items numbers 9 through 11 on behalf of Sergio Panichi, NYCHA's Chief Procurement Officer, for your consideration. Please note all the items I will be referencing are for goods only, so a Section 3 plan is not required. Item number 9 seeks authorization to ratify the award of a requirement contracts with AC Lighting and Electrical Supplies, LLC, DBA Conserve Lighting and Electric Supplies, for the selected 76 out of 133 line items in the amount of $1,156,950.40 for the purchase and delivery of electrical controls, lamps, wiring, and fixtures. This is a 5-year requirement contract with no renewal options. A vendor name check dated June 26, 2023 was vetted by the Procurement Ethics and Vendor Responsibility Unit, citing no issues with the conclude award, and that this vendor is deemed responsible for a contract award with NYCHA. Item number 10 seeks authorization to approve a capacity increase to the requirement contract award to APR Industries Incorporated in the amount of $5,020,276.54 for the purchase and delivery of hardware, mortise locks, parts, and accessories. This is a 3-year requirements contract. This contract capacity increase to this requirement contract is required to fund the remaining of the term and to address the excessive number of pending requisitions for hardware, mortise locks, parts, and accessories. A vendor name check is not required. Item number 11 seeks authorization to approve a contract capacity increase, the requirement contract awarded to Jamaica Hardware and Paint Incorporated in the amount of $1,043,600.63 for the purchase and delivery of pest control restricted items. This is a 5-year requirement contract. This contract capacity increase is necessary to provide the capacity for the remainder of the contract term, to cover price increases and to address any incomplete or pending releases and/or requisitions for these restricted items. A vendor name check is not required. Yes, Vice Chair.
This is just for my clarification. It says restricted items. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that's just a class, right? Pest control items could be a wide stuff. They could be glue traps, they could be cages, they could also be pesticides and chemicals that only licensed pest control folks should be ordering.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Items 12 through 15, Senior.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Yeah. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Board members, CEO, COO, and others gathered here. My name is Cesar Gonzalez. I'm the Vice President of Public Operations for Queens and Staten Island. I have the pleasure of representing the Public Housing Operations Division today, and will be presenting 4 items for your consideration. Items 12, 13, and 14. Seeks authorization to amend requirement contracts 20000889, 20000894, and 2002728 awarded to Waste Connections of New York. These requirement contracts provide for bulk garbage carting services at various developments in Brooklyn South in an amount not to exceed $473,433. Manhattan North in an amount not to exceed $672,560, and Manhattan South in an amount not to exceed $410,718. These requirement contracts are to ensure the timely disposal of all bulk garbage items. These 3 contract capacity increase to these 3 requirement contracts are required to fund 2 additional 6-month terms. These extensions enable the authority to continue to provide bulk garbage carting services in order to maintain a safe and sanitary environment for the authority residents while the replacement contracts are being procured and awarded. The vendor Waste Connections of New York has indicated that the Section 3 the Section 3 for all 3 contracts, total projected labor hours is 0. Any questions?
Actually, it's not labor hours because it's an older contract, so it's high as a 0. Same 0. Correct. Thank you.
And item number 15, seeks authorization to ratify the contract capacity increase of requirement contract 1925884 in an amount not to exceed $412,204 to Waste Connections of New York. This will be extend the term for an additional 6 months. This requirement contract provides for bulk garbage carting services at various developments in Brooklyn West. This contract capacity increase is required to fund the remainder of the extended 6-month term. This extension enables the authority to continue to provide bulk garbage carting services in order to maintain a safe and sanitary environment for the authority's residents while the replacement contract is being procured and awarded. The vendor, Waste Connections has indicated, projected labor hours is 0. Any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Caesar. Appreciate it. Item 16 through 21. Keith?
Morning, board members, happy holidays. Item number 16 is a contract award to First Heating Solutions LLC as an MWB contract. It's a requirement contract for service and maintenance of Siemens LW series advanced boiler systems and controllers. A VNC was requested on July 28th, 2023, it's still pending, no award until VNC is issued and vetting is completed by the Procurement Ethics and Vendor Responsibility Department. This contract is not to exceed amount of $2,884,700, it's a 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options. Labor hours are 15,000, projected section 3 is 3750. Any questions? Item number 17, award of a requirements contract for bulk garbage carting services in Brooklyn to Philco. The not to exceed amount is $2,226,468.75. It's a 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options. Labor hours are 10,998. Section 3 projected is 2750. A VNC dated June 7th was vetted and by the Procurement Ethics and Vendor Responsibility Department. There was no issue found to preclude award. Any questions? Item number 18, award of a requirement contract for bulk garbage carting services to Century Waste. Not to exceed amount is $1,179,643.50. It's a 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options. Labor hours are 3,120. Projected section 3 is 780. VNC dated June 12th, 2023 is complete, no issue to preclude award. Any questions? Item 19.
Could you speak into the microphone so?
Yes.
Could you adjust the microphones?
Is this better?
Yeah.
I can just move it closer.
Much
It's-
better, the
Oops.
individuals online must hear.
So, okay.
That's a strong Vegas look.
Yeah, it's the front man look, that's what I'm going for.
Sing the next. That's
Yeah, it's the holiday season, maybe we'll do some caroling here. Alright, so item 19, Hamden Engineering Corp. So this is authorization to enter into an agreement with Hamden Engineering Corporation, or HEC, for the purchase of training mock-ups for our new heating center. Essentially, this will be for, they will build out prop sections and training sections within the new space. And they are qualified to, they'll actually build a mock-up of our current system, but much smaller so that we can utilize the space to the best of our ability. The not to exceed amount is $1,264,073.33. It's a 1-year term with 1-year renewal option. This is for materials, no labor required. Any questions?
And who operates the training center? Who does the training?
We do, yeah. So there's an existing space in Sheepshead. One of the things that we realize is it's efficient and it's small, it's in a basement. And we're trying to improve the space similar to what the elevator training center looks like, where we have actual mock-ups and staff can work. So we're moving it from there to Sheepshead Nostrand sometime next year, when it's completed. Yes, sir.
From Sheepshead to Long Island.
From Sheepshead to Long Island City. Yes, thank you.
Remind me again, how is it that you guys come up with these great big numbers of hours and then break it down in, like, we don't know when the next group of hours that belong to that number is coming?
Are you referring to section
Section
3
3?
hours or something
Well,
different?
yes, I'm talking about, like, for example, number 7, I was waiting to be finished. For example, you have number 17, it's 2,750, section 3, right? Of 10,998 hours. How did you get to that number?
So for specifically for carding services, I can tell you how we came to that number. I'm sure there's a larger formula, but for carding services, it's the average number of pickups times the number of staff times the number of hours it takes to complete those pickups. We extrapolate that out for the length of the contract, and then that's,
And then you go to each different borough or each.
So right, it's for the specific, so actually in waste contracts, in this case, it's, not in this case, in waste contracts in general, we actually look at how they're able to, the number of staff equals the number of pickups they're allowed to do. So we actually have to adjust that, like, part of with Philco specifically, we had to go back and forth and adjust their capacity, number of vehicles matters, number of staff assigned matters, and that's how we come to this formulary with them. We use the sanitation industry standard and go back to them with that.
So can I assume that if it's not carding services or some other type of service, it's going to fall under the same formula?
So the vendor and others, like Sergio or others should jump in if I get this wrong, but the vendor, when they are going through the procurement process, part of the process is they have to submit a proposed section 3 plan to show how they will meet section 3 requirements. And so they are saying through their work, this is how we expect to achieve the section 3 compliance, including how many hours they will be allocating of the total work product to section 3.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just with the follow up on the vice chair's question, I think at some point I'd love to get an overview of section 3 and how we're doing that.
Sure.
Okay. Done it before, we'll plan another one. Okay. And just to answer another section of your question, Member Gonzalez, I believe the projected section 3 number, the total labor hours is 100%. Section 3 targeted number is actually 25% of that number, correct, Sergio? And to the extent that the number of total labor hours were incorrect, adjusted up or down, then that section 3 number will be adjusted up or down to 25%.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
20, okay, thank you. So, item number 20 is for Garner Environmental Services. It's to enter into an agreement with Garner Environmental Services, Inc. Sorry about that. So, to enter into an agreement with Garner Environmental Services, Inc. for service and maintenance and just-in-time deployment of flood protection components. As we know, capital team, resiliency team has been building out flood protection measures. Some of them require just-in-time deployment. Garner is the vendor who does that and does service on the components of that, grommets, et cetera. So the not to exceed amount is $55,934,579.95. It's a 5-year term with 2 1-year renewal options. Projected labor hours is 3,600 and section 3 projected is 900. Any questions?
Yes, if I could, this is a new service that we're preparing to enter. Could you explain again what sort of stimulated us to do this?
Sure, so these barriers that are put in place, right? They have typically rubber seals on them. They have posts that are attached to the building, right? So some of it is pre-deployed and some of it requires deployment. The stuff that's pre-deployed is just out there in the world and exposed to the elements. So we want them to do maintenance on those items, some backwater valves that typically remain closed unless we have a major coastal flooding situation. And then the other piece of it is just-in-time deployment. Because this is so massive of a deployment across a larger number of developments, right, in a flood zone. This company is actually, if you look at the chart, they're kind of number 1 in the industry for this. So they actually require 72 to 86 hours notice. They'll come into town, set everything up in 24 hours, and it allows our labor force to focus on securing the stuff that is not protected by this, right? Securing our infrastructure, shutting everything down safely. So it's not, we use them during Sandy, as part of the city's contract, but this is a new service for us. So we're entering into our own agreement with them, so we increase the size of their agreed upon labor force for the city.
So it's both proactive and emergency.
Correct, yeah, it's part of our preparedness measures, and the reason that the contract value is so high is for an emergency deployment, we don't wanna have to, we ran out of funds in the contract, so it's, one emergency deployment can wipe out a good chunk of that. So the annual maintenance is only like 500,000 and change a year. So we won't get to that number unless there's a major emergency requiring nurses.
Excellent, thank you.
So there's a chunk of this that's contingent on emergency.
Correct, yeah. And there's not like a guaranteed spend on it either, so.
It's not, it's no take or
Correct.
Is any of this covered by any insurance that we have, if there is any?
So, right, so this would all be one of the reasons that we went with Garner is their formulary is based on FEMA's formulary. So their whole billing cycle is based on what FEMA will reimburse. And it's almost, I don't wanna say 100%, but it's almost all of it's reimbursable.
So this, in other words, of this, the 50, at least the emergency fee should be reimbursable.
Well, right, yeah, exactly. The maintenance piece would not be the emergency piece, would be, yeah.
I would have thought it'd be.
I can absolutely follow up and look into that.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I heard you, yeah.
What was the question?
It wasn't really a question, it was
Oh,
just a
okay.
statement under my breath, really.
Thank you.
I was just saying, I would have thought that if insurance covers it, I would have thought your insurance would require that you have something like this in place, but it was just a statement to myself.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you get an answer. So item number 21, any other questions on item 20, sorry?
Proceed.
Item 21 is for Richard's Plumbing, it's ratification of an IDIQ contract for plumbing services for heating. The not to exceed amount is $17 million, the minimum spend is $50,000. It's a 3-year term with 2 1-year renewal options, labor hours are 37,500 and projected section 9 is 9,375. The VNC was valid, section 8, oh, sorry, section, alright, we're just different sections throughout the authority, but section 3 in this case, the projected hours are 9,375.
9,375.
9,375, yeah.
Yes, that's what they said. Sorry, correct.
I'm checking.
Come on.
Alright, a VNC, there's a valid VNC for Richards Plumbing at the time of the award, no issue to preclude. Any questions on?
No questions, thank you.
And I bid you a good, thank you.
Items 22 through 28, Audrey.
Good morning, board members. I'm Audrey Walker, presenting the following items for Oliver Oskowin, VP of Project Management, who could not attend today. Items 22 through 24 seeks authorization to award 3 contracts for roofing replacement and rooftop structure renovation at Longfellow Avenue Rehab, Millbrook Houses, Lincoln Houses in the amount of $4,542,982, $8,711,000, and $19,219,709 to ABCD Construction Corp., Roma Scaffolding Inc., A&B Construction Inc., respectively. The projected Section 3 labor hours are 3,718 hours, 1,680, and 34,700 respectively. Items 25 through 28, presenting these items on behalf of Joyce Cinderbrand, Senior Vice President for Capital Programs, who could not be here today. Item 25 seeks authorization to approve capacity increase for LIRA Program Construction Management for professional construction management as agent on the Sandy Recovery Program at Red Hook in the amount of $3.5 million. Since the original award of this agreement, the scope of work and construction duration of the project being managed by LIRA has evolved, necessitating an increase in capacity for special inspection, asbestos air monitoring services for over $400 million of construction scope. A revised Section 3 plan was submitted by LIRA, which indicated 3 new Section 3 hires. Item 26 seeks authorization to approve a contract capacity to increase the agreement with AECom for construction management as agent service for a Sandy Recovery Program at Kerry Gardens, Coney Island, Graves and Haber Houses in the amount of $2.474 million. Since the award of this agreement, the scope of work and construction duration of the projects being managed by AECom have evolved, necessitating an increase in staffing fees and necessitating allowances in order to provide adequate management of these projects. Item 27 seeks authorization to approve capacity increase in the amount of $2.2 million to the agreement of Kahn Peterson Fox Associates, PC, for architectural and engineering services for Sandy Recovery Program at Red Hook East West Houses. With over $400 million of construction work at this site, the project requires consistent oversight and the architect of record through completion, which is anticipated next year. Finally, item 28 seeks authorization to approve a capacity increase to a requirement contract for Cordon Construction Corp. For the replacement of temporary oil boilers and temporary natural gas boilers at various Superstorm Sandy impacted development in Brooklyn in a not to exceed amount of $3.5 million. This capacity increase is required in order to fund the continuation of the lease of the temporary boiler until the completion of the replacement of the permanent boilers at certain sites.
There appears to be no questions. Thank you, Audrey. And item 29, tutor.
Distinguished Madam CEO, Chair, Board members. I am Teuta Dobi, Deputy Director for Program Management at ANCM Capital Programs. I will be presenting today number 29 for your consideration. ANCM is respectfully requesting authorization to reject all bids for an IDIQ contract not to exceed 15 million for the interior compactor replacement at various developments citywide related to RFQ 438016-2. The scope of work of this RFQ included, but was not limited to the replacement of the existing interior compactor systems and associated components. ANCM competitively bid this IDIQ contract. This was a public bid where 15 vendors reviewed the bid and 2 presented their proposal. The first low bidder, Central Interiors Incorporated, was deemed non-responsive for failure to submit the letter of assent for its sealed list of subcontractors and the required bid bond at the time of their bid. The second bidder, J&N Construction Group Corporation, submitted a bid that was 120.04% above NYCHA cost estimate, which I and CM deemed excessive for the value of work being performed. Based on these results presented, we seek your authorization to reject all bids. Any questions, please?
No, thank you so much, appreciate it. Great. Chair, 32 items are presented for board approval. Board, may I have a motion to approve the 32 items with a notation in the record that Member Wright has indicated her approval of all 32 items.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Chair, being that all matters before the board today have been addressed, board, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Chair.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Thank you. The recorded end time, 11:14 a.m. Thank you all. The next NYCHA board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 31st, 2024 at 10 a.m. Happy holidays to all. Enjoy, be safe, and be well.